Yeah, thank you again, everyone, for your time and for your future time over the next a couple months. But again, I think you're well aware that this initiative is coming out of this broader focus on CPL that we have in Indiana. I think most, if not all of you, were involved in our original task forces that we set up last year. Part of this, of course, we want to become a leading state in the utilization of credit for prior learning, which is truly in support of our adult learners. And as you're probably aware, we'll talk a little bit about this. Steve's on the call. We're launching the Collegiate Purple Star Award, which requires military credit for prior learning. That those applications get going soon. And so as part of this real focused push on CPL, we're zeroing in on military. And what we want to do is build upon the recommendations from last year's task force, use this group's expertise to hit the ground running. Let's do some implementation work, right? And so we're going to lean heavily on this group to really move us forward in the next few months. And we have a title here around Clearinghouse 2.0 resource development, and that's the case. I mean, all of this work is going to support institutions and provide resources for them under the umbrella of this clearinghouse idea. But there are other aspects of the clearinghouse that we'll talk about later. But with that, I mean, I think we'll go ahead and get going. And John, I'm happy to continue, or if you want to go through the agenda. Okay, you're muted, but I think.
Yep, sorry about that. So this is how we're going to approach today, but at the end of today's hour, we're going to have a roadmap for the next 8 Friday mornings for you, and we'll be really respectful. And the way we've got this mapped out, taking it one topic every Friday, but also spending a little bit of time at the beginning of each meeting for those that may not have made the meeting, that can catch up what we did last week, because this is kind of fast paced for us, but we're a very mature and solid knowledge base around credit for prior learning, the military program, the sample pilot student target population for this project. So today we're going to talk about just the purpose of this community of practice, the community practice outline. We're going to give you a quick briefing of the survey outcomes that was just completed in June. It was so awesome. We had 32 institutions statewide that participated. So we're going to give you a sneak preview of that. And then we're going to go back after each meeting and revisit some of those outcomes as we start digging into each of those topics. Then we're going to share some overall findings and gaps, recommendations, and best practices that we saw in the outcomes of that survey. Then we're going to talk about the Clearinghouse 2.0, topic areas for future weeks, next meeting, homework. There'll be homework every Friday, just so you come armed with your thoughts and your institution's ideas, but also maybe some ideas that you've seen in other states or other institutions that you've got partnerships with. And then a quick reminder about the Lunch and Learn next week. So that's the agenda. First of all, so we all came together because these are the folks that we so greatly appreciate that did volunteer to serve in this community of practice, this small work group, as we take this next step. So we appreciate you all for signing up. A little bit about this project, knowing that we're on tight 1 hour every Friday morning meetings. Many of you put in an alternative contact. So if you cannot make a certain Friday meeting, it's okay to send and to allow that alternative to sit in. And if you both want to sit in, that way you can work on your homework together the next week, that's fine too. The more the merrier. This is a table of distributed leadership, and we are all leaders that come to this table, and we all bring our own unique gifts, and it's going to be fun. And it's all about sharing that love. The CHE team, and then we have TPMA, and Dallas Kratzer is another subcontractor on this project. So Stacy, why don't we just start with some updates that's going on at CHE, but that kind of align and may someday connect with this project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll ask my colleague, Steve, just to briefly give an update on what the Collegiate Purple Star is and where we're going from here. And Steve.
Thank you. Welcome. Morning, everybody. We launched the Collegiate Purple Star on April 30th of 2024, so it is still a baby. Uh, the goal of the Collegiate Purple Star was to recognize an eligible post-secondary institution that has successfully demonstrated a supportive environment for its for its United States military affiliated student population from the application through the graduation process and beyond that. Now, this is a voluntary award recognition program. It has 37 standards over 8 different categories, but there are 2 specific standards related to MCPL, sorry. You would think I was on Central Time Zone. I'm not a morning person. We have standard 1.3, which is an institution has established a CPL policy inclusive of validating military training and experiential learning. That standard meets the state code 214272. So we designed that standard around that code, which was your credit for military service courses. So if you do one, you automatically meet the state code. So that's the policy. Hey, do you have the policy? Standard 3.5 is the institution clearly communicates its procedures on how it military credits applied on at your institution. So we have the policy on one hand, and then we say, how are you communicating it? How are you following it on the other? So that's just kind of a very general overview of CPSI and how the 2 standards that we've incorporated meet the objectives of this group.
And then I'll transition just to bring folks up to date. Parallel to this working group and this phase of the CPL focus on military and tying into the Collegiate Purple Star core requirement of having active policies and practices around military CPL, we're launching a very small pilot with Solid, which is they've been the primary partner of the Department of Defense over the last 15 years. They provide subject matter expertise and analysis in support of DoD's main transition assistance programs, including, I think, MilGears and Skill Up and some other things. Their recommendations, their expertise goes beyond just the foundation of the ACE military guide credit recommendations that, as part of this work, we're going to be promoting for all institutions that ACE military guide. But this small pilot with Ivy Tech, Vincennes, and Purdue Global is designed, and we're kicking it off later this afternoon. So we're really just now getting going. It's really designed to kind of lift the lid in what does that deeper analysis look like around military credentialing and occupational credit awarding around military and cybersecurity. And so that work is going to be happening in parallel just to give us, to demonstrate how to potentially significantly expand the recognition and use of this military training and experience for academic credit. I don't know, that's the hope and the goal, that we'll be able to build upon this. But if nothing else, it just gives the faculty who will be involved a sense of the possibilities as they think more broadly about credit for prior learning. And I think in the last update, just to share with you, and Jessica Barrett, our colleague in academic affairs, is on the call. We have always said that we want to make sure that we're making credit for prior learning a part of the existing transfer frameworks within Indiana. That's just, it's kind of a no-brainer. We've got to integrate it into what's working and build upon that. And so with that, we will start having formal conversations with the STAC committee this fall when they launch for the academic year. And we're going to be bringing to the table initially some foundational MCPL efforts, again, building on those ACE recommendations, ACE recommendations, to see if what we can do to start integrating those into some existing transfer frameworks. So the work of this working group is going to inform and support everything that we're doing. So again, thank you.
So again, like Stacy said, you will become the community of practice. At the end of project phase 3 last year, it was decided to, before we roll out statewide credit for prior learning, it's always best to test it out in a sample student target population. So the military student target population and military affiliated students was chosen such as that. So a lot of focus and resources this year is being put on that type of program initiative, which is part of a big umbrella of blowing this up statewide for all student target populations. So we are the community of practice. So we get to test out, play out, discuss, have healthy conversations around what we think would work and not work for the students, but also for faculty and administrators at every institution. And the way that we'll do that and create this transparency is through establishing this work group, this community of practice here today. Next slide, Kelly. So here's our mission and what we want to do over these every Friday for the next 2 months. And that is we're going to have some initial discussions. And Alex, this is where you and team will come in around plan and initiate the Clearinghouse 2.0 initiative. Then we're also going to build and collaborate this environment, this community of practice that we've established and are launching today with all of you. So we can test out some ideas, maybe take a look at various policies or tools, even resources, student resources, as well as faculty resources to make sure. And when the full-blown Clearinghouse 2.0 does get launched, it's very robust and it's going to hit the ground running. We're going to create this learning and development platform, which is all of us. All of you are on here as subject matter experts. And then eventually we'll turn into ambassadors, program ambassadors of this. And you'll be the ambassadors throughout the state, the go-to that other institutions may reach out to you as. We're going to talk about best practices and innovative strategies. We're going to collaborate on, each institution's processes and maybe tips and helpful hints. Again, we meet every Friday for 1 hour. And then at the end, we'll be resource sharing and feedback sessions. And we'll do that when we put this together and share it with all those other institutions that participated in the survey. And we'll be doing that around November, but we'll talk about the timeline a little later in this presentation. So let's go to the next slide. So what we want to share, these next few slides between I and Dallas, this is the outcomes of the recent survey that was completed, the military. And I think we had 18 questions. But with that, these are all the institutions that participated in that assessment survey. The ones that are highlighted with 1 single star in the light gold, they did have a military credit for prior learning policy, but they weren't able to share it. And then those that have the double stars have no policy. So we have a couple colleges that are going to be looking to this community of practice to help them build out their policy and program implementation, which is going to be really critical come next January when they apply to be a Purple Star Collegiate institution. So this is how we're going to share our love, but and launch this implementation plan towards the end of this project to share with all.
From the survey, we really found out some great information. It was well participated. One of the big things that we found was that everyone has some level of ACE involvement. You can see the percentages there and how it all maps out. The largest one being the core or credit evaluation. Now, the interesting part to this question on the survey, this is talking about the military guide itself, the website where you can go in and you can investigate, learn more. It's not about using the JST because a lot of schools use the JST, except for the two that don't have a policy. They may use the JST, but they don't use the military guide. The military guide is where that collection of all things that have been done by an ACE evaluation team over the years, and it's a great resource. There's some opportunity to also do great networking, which one of the things that we found in the survey is that Butler University has already begun using the institutions page portal, which will allow them to share out with other universities and colleges how they have used ACE credit recommendations. So I'm excited about that. That's part of our plan. We want to see that grow because then all of our schools if they're using it, we'll be able to know who's accepting what and how. And it is a free resource. So that's really good. If you want to learn more about that free resource, I've got the link on there for the AMG video that talks about what the guide is and how you can use it. And then in the second part of the video, it talks about what the institutions portal looks like. 7 minutes. It's really quick. It's easy. But what we want to do is increase that use of the guide for more things than just looking at credit recommendations. A lot of folks who use it for awareness. That's great. That is fantastic. But we want to move into that larger piece of being able to use it to share information with institutions. Okay.
Thank you, Dallas. So as Dallas said, as we're showing you these slides, and we're going to bring these slides back in future meetings as we talk about these topics, specific topics, but this is where we can really, this group here can help develop resources that can build a capacity for every institution to be successful with their military credit for prior learning program. So if you all remember that portion in the survey assessment where we asked you to rate yourself on your knowledge level, your comfort and knowledge level in the 8 categories: military courses, military occupations, industry certifications, community-based training, CLEP, the DSST. So we did have 5 institutions that rated themselves no knowledge at all in 5 or more of those categories. So these are areas we want to think about on that certain Friday as part of homework, how we can help them to build the capacity so they can be more successful in their program, like those of you that are in the very far right on this slide, where you rated above neutral to proficient knowledge in almost all of the categories. So these are going to be our launching ambassador and subject matter expert institutions. And then those in the middle, they no knowledge to neutral in 3 or more of those categories. So we will spend a Friday. You'll get to revisit each of these slides when we hit those topics on this is a gap and how can we fill this gap? Where can we, what resources worked best for you to be, proficient knowledge base and running your military for credit for prior learning program, that we can help these others, fill that picture, those other pictures up. So everybody is just Purple Star collegiates all over the state. Next slide.
So as with anything, there's always concerns that come up. And with the way ACE does their credit evaluations and that assessment, the schools, we asked them, what were you concerned about? And these are the drivers that they identified. First of all, that the learning is different. When you do credit evaluation in the military setting, one of the things that we always remember, we have to recall, is that the military doesn't train to a college course. They train to mission. And because of that, the training can be different. So there's a valid concern there. This is where we want to make sure that our faculty and our staff are aware of how the training is done or the assessment is done and how it might relate to what we're doing. So we've got some training classes that we're going to be offering up to explain that. One of them will be in October. There's another one in August, August 14th, next week, as a matter of fact. The other big challenge on this list was the fact that validity and rigor, do they really train enough to be equivalent to what would happen in a college course? Again, this is something that through training, we can help our faculty and staff to understand that when ACE does their evaluation, it is and does have the depth and breadth and rigor because we're college professors that are going out and doing that. As a matter of fact, I just did one this week with Fort Novacell for aviation management, and all the colleagues, we all are active instructors in our subject matter expert area, and we invest that time to make sure that it is equivalent. Additionally, the students not being prepared. As we do these assessments, we want to make sure that the student has the learning to be able to go to the next step. The last thing we want to do is set them up for failure. So this is that balance, that give and take. Your faculty drive the whole decision process. So we need to address these concerns for them. Now, the staff, on the other hand, work with the faculty, but the faculty own the determination on military CPL or all CPL for that matter. Now, in the survey, the one that you see that rated very high was the other category. And the reason that that happened isn't that because people have a lot of other reasons that they're concerned about. It is that people were putting none, that they had no other, and it caused the survey to see it as a response. So out of that, there were only truly two other categories, and that was the use of blanket application of credits where they're just coming in as elective credit and there's no evaluation, it's just transcripted. Or the other challenge is keeping it current and stable, which is why we want to look at a coordinated effort across the institutions to say, here's the evaluation that we've determined should be a recommendation, but in 3 years, it may get reevaluated, and we need to keep that up to date. So those, we will address those as we go through. There are a couple of initiatives that we can help to do that. With that, the highest outcomes that we saw, areas where military students gravitated to, were in the business area and in nursing. And that's pretty much a no-brainer. That's pretty easy, because as a person moves through their military career, they get a lot of leadership training, which correlates to business. And the reason nursing is very popular is in the Army, a combat medic or medical career field is the third largest career field in the Army. So a very big population there. And that's why we attract those folks, the health services area. In the computer science area, we do get some activity, but not a lot, because right now, most of the folks are thinking, hey, I can get a great job with this certificate that I've earned. And the military's done a really good job at helping their service members get certificates. The thing that we need to help them to understand is certificates get you jobs, but degrees get you into management. And we'll continue to work to educate in that area. So we're going to focus a lot of our efforts first, though, on that easy one, that low-hanging fruit, business and nursing. How can we maximize credit recommendations for those? Okay.
Thank you, Dallas. And so let's go into just some overall findings that and gaps that we realized when we did a deeper dive into the survey outcomes. Went into every individual assessment and clicked on their links and went and looked for their policies and their processes. One thing that I do want to share, and thank you to Dallas, is the CPL umbrella. It's a big statewide program. We do treat military students and military affiliated students a little different because they do come with a lot of credentials. But we wanted to just share the umbrella that there's transfer credit students, because we have students that are enrolled in more than one university or institution and in maybe in a couple states. I know for me here in Missouri, we have a lot of our master's and PhD students enrolled in University of Maryland out on the East Coast, but they reside here. So they're taking classes at University of Missouri, but they're also enrolled doing other coursework there. So there's the transfer credit. Then we have our military credit students. And then there's the proficiency credit, which is standardized. It could be those that have been in the workforce as well for many years and received a lot of certificates through their employer and are now entering college for the first time to get that degree so they can get promoted into management. So some of the findings that we found is that everybody said, yes, we will accept military credit. And most of you said, yes, we do use the ACE guide. But you can tell from those earlier slides, how much are they really using the ACE military guide? Are they using it to the fullest, which is why we're recommending everybody to take that time for that 7-minute video. 3 of the 5 that were not able to share their policies. In that next question we asked on the survey, they did share their practices. Well, if we had a military student ask us about credit for prior learning, this is how we would approach it. And they would do it on a case-by-case basis. So we want to help, eliminate that and build some consistency across the state with the program, but also to increase access to students. Think if we had a marketing tool and it was offered to every military student. And then many shared broken hyperlinks to their policies we couldn't get into. So then I'd have to go out to their faculty handbook and do global searches. I spent a whole day going down that rabbit hole on many institutions' websites. But I chose, this is and I shared this with Stacy a couple of weeks ago. I choose the positive side of life. I think your hyperlinks are broken because you all are updating your policies because you're getting ready to apply to be a Purple Star collegiate institution. So hooray, I'm going to think positive about this, about those broken links. So these are just some findings. Some other things that we noticed and gaps that we want this group to work on is the terminology. Everybody's using a different terminology. We see transfer credits for military, and that's it. But there is credit for prior learning and credit by examination that you're offering, but you don't call it that within your processes or your policies. So I think this group, we can come to an agreement and like establish what the terminology will be for every institution. So for those military students that may be enrolled in a 2-year institution and a 4-year institution, understands that it is apple to apple. Another thing is we want to make sure all the policies align in their practices. They're pretty consistent and transparent. While the state did adopt a standard model policy guidance, at minimum, this was what we would like every institution to have. But there is no credit for prior learning czar in any of the states. No one's going to come out and audit your policy and say, oh, it doesn't comply. That's going to be up to you and what best fits your needs. But if you could put a student's hat on and understand how they perceive this, or the public, maybe a parent of a military trying to help their disabled vet get back to school, and they're trying to interpret all the different terminology and policies, it can be confusing. So we have to have, let's say, a public side of this process, this program, and a faculty administrator side of this program. And then we thought it might be really good to further develop the Clearinghouse 2.0 based on last year's projects, all those recommendations and findings. And we're going to share those with you in the next Friday meeting, but we're going to give them to you in a separate email as homework to review that so we can have some real robust conversations about the Clearinghouse and what it needs to entail. And we also thought maybe establishing and standing up a statewide military for credit for prior learning committee or task force. And that would be a safe environment, another community of practice that you could meet and you can all share ideas or examples or student testimony. I had this military student come in, never had this before, has anybody else, but a safe place that you can help build your program, expand it, and grow it and build consensus. Next slide. Okay, so we found also, those were just some, overall arching findings and gaps, but we also found some really awesome best practices. The Purdue Global site, I really have to say, this is a one-stop shop and it has everything. It's got awesome tools for the student to understand, but it's also got pretty clear policies for all the campuses all over to administer. I love your types of PLA. You talk about all the different ways that you will accept PLA. And that was very self-explanatory in very layman's terms for a student or a member of the public to understand what they're about to embark on. Your military credit estimator calculator out there, I love things like that. We did a calculator here in Missouri that would allow colleges to estimate how much they would have to, how many classes, more classes students with credit for prior learning would have to take to sustain the program of having a credit for prior learning faculty and advisors and things like that. So I'm all about that best practice, and we're putting this out there. We want other institutions to take a look. Ivy Tech, your military training and certification crosswalks are out there. This is really helpful for those that are thinking, I've done that, and it crosswalks to this program, a study in this occupation. That's another wonderful best practice. Martin University, they have already developed their credit for prior learning marketing flyer. I did put PLA in there because that's what they called it, but that's another branding and marketing thing that this group will talk about. Right now it is CPL, not PLA. PLA was the old term nationwide everybody used, and it's prior learning assessments, assessments is just one part, one tool under that umbrella we showed you a few slides ago. But they do have a marketing flyer. They were the only one that shared that. So if any of you, when we get to that Friday that we're going to talk about marketing and branding of the program, we want resources and tools to come forth on that Friday. University of Southern Indiana uses a portal complete with an application form, and they do have a payment process. So if those of you that do charge, but it's not out there and it's not known to the student, how is that information delivered? Because would that prevent a student? Oh, I don't have $50 to do credit for prior learning. And how is that handled? So we'll get into that when we talk about tools like that. And then I always love student testimonies on YouTube. I'm a military student. I went to Trine University, and to listen and watch that video and that story. So these are just a few. There were many, many more, but we're going to have a day and talk about best practices, because eventually we're going to want these in the repository, in the Clearinghouse 2.0, to help share, grow, and expand this program. Next slide. So here's our timeline. So today we're launching this community of practice. We're introducing you to the project, and then we have a webinar that we're getting ready to host next week. In September, and between now and the end of September, we're going to be meeting every Friday to talk about different topic areas that we need to build on, so we can address some of those gaps and findings that we saw earlier from the assessment and survey. We're also going to want you all to take a look at a draft mock-up boilerplate implementation guide that would go out there. So we're going to want your feedback on that, because in October, we would like to roll out this implementation guide. This will aid those colleges that are like, we're thinking today, we're not going to apply for Collegiate Purple Star because it's too much work. If they have a guide in October, we're pretty sure they can put things in place, and they might be able to get their application and mark a lot of those boxes off and submit. And then in November, we're going to come back and do feedback. Those 32, we're going to send it out to the mass institutions, those 32 institutions. In November, we're going to go in and analyze it and ask for feedback, do some one-on-one interviews with faculty, registrars, vice provosts, but also then we might want to interview and do some secret shopper with some military students. What was your experience? And then in January, we're going to roll it all up, and we'll have a final project report out. You will all get a copy of it. It'll be handed over to Steve and Stacy and everyone at CHE for next action steps. But it should position every institution on a level playing field and get them ready to apply come January. Okay, coming soon. And Alex, I'm going to ask you and Stacy to help me with this slide. So what we learned last year is we have currently, CHE currently has a clearinghouse, and it was established in 2021 by a piece of legislation. So, and it directed CHE to be the administrator and the holder of that clearinghouse, but a clearinghouse for the public and the institutions, of a go-to place to get resources, as well as a go-to place for legislative members when they have a military student or a regular student. What is this credit for prior learning? Well, come here, I'll show you this website. It's kind of like a repository. So we've got one launched and it's out there. My question to many of you on here is, how many of you have gone to that site and visited it? Because it hasn't been up that long. And you can unmute and voice or raise your hand, but we did learn last year in the phase 3 project, very few had been out to that site to visit. So now in last year's work, it did come out, we need a new clearinghouse. It's been out there for a couple of years, but it's not user friendly, and there were things that were missing on it. So with that, CHE will be giving resources and time and efforts through Alex's office about launching a new Clearinghouse 2.0. Last year's task force, we asked everybody, what would make this a robust website? And it all came back to the student learning experience. So we're going to spend some time in another meeting about that. And that's that report we're going to share for you for homework to review. They did look at other state clearinghouse sites. They looked at a lot of other projects that are going on at CHE that align with this, that there might be an opportunity. maybe to connect the two, like Credential Engine or something like that. But the current clearinghouse will be what we live with on the public side of this. And I think, Alex, you shared with us that you're probably 2 years out before the new clearinghouse website can be launched, correct? It's because I know you have a lot of other projects in line for that. Stacy, Alex, looking to you too.
Alex is definitely leading the way on the data collection that would inform any sort of institution information we want to share on the site, and that might be behind the firewall, right, from the public. I don't know yet. But from a regular user portal with a platform that's highly navigable and interoperable with Credential Engine or whatever other technologies out there. I mean, we've got to raise funding. We've got to, there's a whole process there. So I'm thinking, within the next year or two, hopefully we'll have something. But this work right now is helping us think through, for the institutions themselves, that's one of those primary audiences. What can we be providing now?
Yeah. And so for us as a community of practice and as a work group, we've proposed creating a Google site. Because we're collecting all this great information, we need a repository today where we can place everything into, and where this group here can go into and look at, and we can have healthy, open, organic conversations about, well, this works, but this wouldn't, this is confusing. So Dallas Kratzer created this repository site, and we have been putting the surveys in there. We've been putting the tools from the previous 3 projects before this, since 2021, into that. And thank you, Kelly. So here's where we're at. What we want everybody to look at. We know that because of your own firewalls within your own institutions, you may not be able to grant access, but we do have a workaround. And Kelly Friend, that's with us here today from TPMA, can work with you one-on-one on how to gain access to this site. You may have to use your personal email. I use my Gmail account. I can get into it now. I can add to it. I can open up and I can look at things and think, wow, if we had something like this. The other purpose of creating this is 2 years out, if it is going to take 2 years for the full Clearinghouse 2.0 version to come up and launch, CHE will now have a repository, a single site that they can start, pushing things over when they get ready to go launch it. Instead of us keeping it over at TPMA on our shared drive, everything that we have, all the webinar videos, the training, all the resources will be on this Google site, and then it'll be ready for when Alex and Stacy's offices are ready to start populating the new Clearinghouse 2.0 with all the resources that are being developed, that will be developed through all of our hard work efforts, or that have already been developed. So I'm trying to think how we can approach this. I think what you can do is, Kelly, if you want to put your email in the chat for those in this work group, they can reach out to Kelly one-on-one, and it takes 5 minutes, correct, Kelly, to walk them through how to go in and take a look at it. But think of this like our sandbox right now. Before we put anything into live production, when I was a state agency director, our IT vendor gave us a sandbox to play in. This is going to be our sandbox. It's not open for public. No one has this address. Only everybody in this work group will go in and take a look at it, because we are the subject matter experts and we're trying to build something before it gets launched. So this is our sandbox before we open the gates to the big, beautiful sandy beach. Think of it like that. Okay.
Real quick, and I would be happy to do so. So if anybody doesn't have their work email registered as a Google account, I can walk you through that, and it doesn't mess with anybody's security. That way, if you wanted to keep your personal Google accounts personal, I can show you how to use your work email so that it'd be associated with that. Not a problem. Literally, like Dawn said, it takes 5 minutes. And it doesn't raise a ton of red flags.
Right.
Or at
But
least
no, yeah. And we're going to spend one full meeting on this site. So this might be that Friday meeting, that topics day that you might want to bring your alternative member contact with you to this meeting so you both can go in and play, especially if one's going to be researching and but I mean, this is our sandbox and we want as much feedback and input because it's going to help CHE in the future when they go to build the Indiana Clearinghouse 2.0 and launch that out.
And you don't need to set up a Google email. You can do this external to that. So it's not another email. It'll drive you through what Kelly does, makes it really easy. I like it.
Yeah. It will be Indiana specific resources. Some of these resources will be directly from your institution. And then anything that we develop these next couple of months will go into here and won't be lost and we'll be able to share in the future. Okay, we are at 9:15. Next slide. We got to keep moving. So weekly expectations of this work group. We're going to have one topic each meeting, and that's the next slide. We're going to talk about topic areas. But so one topic, we get 1 hour every Friday. So you decide, either you or your alternative will come to this meeting. Remember, this is a community of practice. We all are leaders coming to the table. And when we come to that table, we need to bring gifts so we can all share our love. Be ready to contribute. Bring not only new ideas, but maybe sample work practices from your institution or from other institutions around the country. I know that there's sometimes conferences around from various entities that do carve out breakout sessions just around this topic area. And it may be something that you remember hearing or learning about a couple years ago and you think it's worthy to bring to this group for consideration. Bring them. We've got a list of topics and programs. We also want you all to be thinking about, this is the program that you're administering today at your institution. Where do you see your program 2 years from now? And then better yet, where do you see it 5 years from now? How can we make administering and managing military credit for prior learning easy? Easy for your institution, easy for your registrar's office, your financial aid's office, your admissions office, but also easy for the potential students that are wanting to come and connect at your institution and enroll. We want you to be thinking about what are nice to haves, but not critical. And then also we're going to create a parking lot with, these would be great to have, put that on the wish list. We don't want to lose those. Those are things that may come up later, maybe at CHE when they're developing the clearinghouse. It'd be really nice if we could do this. That was on that parking lot list, so it'll help everybody as we build, grow, and expand this program, out 5 years from now. I can't wait to look back and see where Indiana's military for credit for prior learning is 5 years from now. Next slide. So I started just threw out some topic areas that we would like to touch based on the report that you're going to get later from last year's project. But take a look at this, and we may have missed something, but we know that topic areas on a certain day, we want to spend a whole day talking about this Google site repository, what it is, how to use it, did you knows, and is, by the way, is anybody having problems using it? Is it user friendly and things like that? We want to talk about marketing tools and program branding. This will help CHE's marketing office, Stacy and Steve St. John's office, about what is the Indiana statewide program? What does it look like? That is so critical when you're growing programs and expanding as well as building capacity. The marketing and the branding of it need to be consistent with the terminology. I know that the data collection task force from last year came up with a set data dictionary to start with that they would like every institution. I don't think that got fed back to all the institutions, to all the various levels, because we could see that when we were researching all of the policies and practices. Everybody's using different terminology. We're going to spend a day about professional development tools, and that will address the chart that we saw earlier around who was proficient and who has no knowledge at all. What more can we do, value added to the program, and that we can put into this website, into the Clearinghouse 2.0. What is it that you're not seeing for those webinars that you do sit in that doesn't really align with what your institution's policies and practices are. And then, think about the student. One Friday, we're going to put a student hat on and we're going to go out there and play. And if I was a student, do I know what this is? And how do I, what do I do with this? Because we've got to, one thing that came out of last year's report was they wanted the Clearinghouse 2.0 to be student experience driven. Also, when you think about new faculty onboarding with your institution that'll be assigned to work in this area, how do we grow them? How do we grow our own subject matter experts and ambassadors of this program? And then last but not least, but we've got program resources. And this is where we'll house the state model policy guidance. We'll house this draft implementation guide. We're going to spend a Friday on that implementation guide and talking about what's missing in it. Can you take this and run with it? A directory of all the program ambassadors. I don't know, I just started, but I'm going to call this person over at this institution because they're on this directory and they're a subject matter expert. Ambassador talking points. This is what this program is. This is what it's not. This is how you benefit. Also in that talking points, how do we talk to businesses in our community that want to hire our military graduates? And what does this program mean to them? Many institutions did report we're not quite there to do occupational crosswalks. Well, we've got samples done already. Do they align with your competency-based education curriculum? Maybe they do. Maybe your institution can save time and resources and take a look at these. And these are Indiana-based. And you can kind of see on that topic where it crosses over to those earlier projects that Stacy was sharing. Then the ACE military guide. We did see institutions, nope, never used it. We have the ACE military guide. Do you have an easy access resource? And wouldn't it be nice in the clearinghouse to have it right next to the directory of program ambassadors, someone that they can call to in Indiana that can help them? So these are some topic areas. Now what I'd like to do for about a couple minutes here is open it up. And anything that we didn't cover that you would see on that topic area. And of those, which one would you like to tackle next Friday? And don't be shy. Can you go? Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
So Don, just to confirm, the clarification is what is our topic for next Friday?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, if you might, as a subject matter expert in this community of practice, pick what you're most familiar with, and let's see, because this is going to be yours. You're going, we're just the consultants here moving this train along and, getting everybody together. We are subject matter experts, but this is Indiana. This is going to be your resources. And so what works for you in these topics that we can build upon? Does everybody need more coffee?
Yes. But so I'm looking at this list and I think, just going down the list, let's start with the Google site repository.
Okay.
That might be, that's just popped out at me.
Okay.
I will say I'm not an expert on the ACE military guide, and that's something that I really want to, maybe Dallas and I can get together, or whoever is the subject matter expert, and help us better utilize that.
And a good start will be August 14th, which we'll talk about in a minute.
The 18th.
We're going to have so many Ivy Tech people on that call. You're just going to be blown away. So get ready.
Any others? Okay, then let's
Yeah, Allegra
start.
actually had a comment in the chat.
I just dropped into the chat, across the subjects that we discussed, the implementation guide to me sounds like the most difficult component, because that, there's just gonna be a lot of work. And I think, based on past experiences with groups of experts like this, I think it's work we can do separately, as long as we map it out first and then have time to come back. So I don't know if that should be our first one, but I would really like to have better insight and a good plan for that, because I think it's going to take a long time to get that drafted.
Okay, Dallas.
Yeah, Allegra, I'm just going to jump onto what you were talking about. I think that's a really good plan. And Don, maybe that implementation guide we've been working on might be the thing to do. Yep.
And I believe it's already out there in the repository, Dallas, isn't it? Didn't we load it out there?
We have a placeholder for it.
Okay,
We need to put
okay.
it out there. So
We need
let's
to
get
put it
together
out
and
there.
talk about
Okay.
that. I think that would that does set the stage. And then
Yeah.
I think it will create more ideas as we go through that.
Okay.
Sorry. So I'm listening to everybody. I do think the Google site and doing the implementation plan simultaneously. So there is that. Yeah. Yep. So the information can start building in, and we have a place for it. The worst thing is not having a place for all your good ideas and your best practices, and then you're just kind of back pocketing them and they kind of lose steam along the way. So I like the idea of doing those two things maybe together.
Okay. So as a follow-up to this meeting, here's what we're going to do. The Google site repository between now and next Friday, if everybody could contact Kelly and get in it. In another email, we're going to, from Stacy's office, you're going to get this draft implementation guide and some of these other tools that you see there in resources. And why don't you all at the same time start looking at those? And then at next Fridays, after the Google site, we'll go into the draft implementation plan and maybe take 10 minutes out of each meeting, till we get it finalized where you're all comfortable with it. How's that? Allegra, does that meet? Okay. Okay. That's what we'll do then. At 6 minutes. Anybody else?
I had a quick question for Kelly friend. Kelly, do we need to reach out to you to get access to the site, or only if we can't access the site?
So what I can do is I can add you, and if it kicks back, whatever email that you got to give me an email.
Okay.
And then if it kicks back, so we can do this real quick. So what are you, Jay Wilson?
JM Wilson 1.
So J M Wilson.
The number 1. Yep.
At Butler.
Yep.
And is it .edu?
Yep.
Okay. So if it tells me, might have just let you in. Did it let you in?
Cool.
Yeah.
So did it let you in?
I am checking right now.
And
so if it does, so I can check everybody. Sorry, Stacy, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just gonna say, I know we're meeting right after this, so maybe if anybody's having issues or they just want to see, yeah.
If anybody wants to stay after, feel free. But this is kind of what I'll do. I'll just check your email address, see if you already have a standing email address that is connected with Google by your institution. If not, we just go ahead and register it, which takes about 5 minutes. And it doesn't create another Gmail account or go against your security. So it just allows you as a nonprofit to just have access, or a for-profit too.
Okay, Kelly, as you do that, please make sure you probably want to put them as published viewer instead of editors, because it's not that we want to restrict you guys from doing anything, but if you have editor rights and if you're not careful, you may delete something we don't want deleted. So just the thing, we want to make sure that doesn't happen. And at some point, as you feel comfortable and you want editor rights, we can do that.
Yeah. So, but you'll also get the email with the draft document. We're also going to extract the Clearinghouse 2.0 task force report from the last project, so you can see all of those comments and the feedback and the direction that we're trying to take this community of practice towards. Then we'll also, any other tools that we know we'll be covering in the future. So you'll have the actual document, but then you're also going to eventually all get access into this site where you can see it. And no one else besides us will be in this site. So even if the implementation guide Allegra is out there, it's not finalized until this group says it's finalized, okay? And it may, and as with everything, even policies, Nothing's final. Like I said, it's that 1 year today, this works for us, but will it work for us next year? Will it work 5 years from now for this program? Okay, so. And then, Stacy, I'll let you close this out for this meeting.
Actually, drum roll, it's actually August 14th, I
Oh.
believe, which is Wednesday, right? Our webinar. And so please, if you are attending, great, pull someone else along from your institution. If not, we'll have a recording to share afterwards. And Steve and Arlen are taking the lead on that. And I also wanted to call out another member of my team who was able to join us, David Hall. He is relatively new to the team, but he will be helping us lead the community of practice, beyond this military working group. Anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out. Again, thank you all for your time. I appreciate TPMA's support and really helping us think through concretely how we can really move towards implementation, and we can't do it without your support. So thank you all. Have a great Friday. See you next time.
Thanks.
And I'm gonna stay
And
on.
then CAG team can stay on if we want, and I think Jessica had another.
Do you need me, Kelly?
No, Dawn, you are all set.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful job. Appreciate
Okay.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just got Jessica just said she uses her personal account to do this, so we are fine with Jessica, so I'll get her up and running. So, Stacy, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do
All right.
it.
So I'm gonna share my screen for a quick second because it helps when you go into incognito mode, and if you've never been in incognito mode, it takes a little bit to find. So you just want to open up a new Google, like a new Google browser right here. David Hall.
Do you want us to do that now or just follow you right now
Yeah.
and then we work
Yeah.
on it?
Yeah, if you want to.
I can try. I'm just on my laptop. I normally have several screens that I can play with, but I'm just gonna.
No, I have two screens, but I have to watch that I don't stare at this one because I realize that it just looks like I'm not paying attention in a meeting. But then I look this way and then I realize it looks like I'm not paying attention.
No worries.
All right, so you just open up a new Google tab. And then you want to go to the third one that says new incognito window.
Okay.
And when you click there, you're just gonna put in Google.
Just Google.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it should be that you're going to go ahead and just for you an account.
Okay.
And then you're going to go to create an account. I think this is where Steve got, right?
Yeah, I actually created mine the other day.
Oh, you did? Did it work for you?
Well, I created the account. I have not tried to access the site to see if I get any farther, but I'm working on that now.
When I need to add you to the site. So I need to add your email. So if you don't mind popping your email address into the chat, then I can just copy and paste it. So then you're going to just put your first and last name. You're going to make up a birth date if you were so inclined. Let's put my parents' wedding anniversary in there.
There you
Do we
go.
have to remember our birth date, our faked birth date?
No, I use my
1/1/2000. That's my fake birthday.
I use my sister's.
Yeah, there we go.
And then it says what you want to do is you want to skip this mess right here and go to use your existing email.
Then type in our work email.
Yes.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and I can't go any further because I've already done it. So then
Okay.
if you want to share your screen, just let me know. And then you
Okay,
can
so
show me.
saying I need to get a verification code. Let me do
Yep.
that.
Yeah, I followed your directions. The screenshots, they worked out really well.
Thanks.
I just got hung up on, yeah, we'll see how far it allows me. But I didn't do the incognito, so that's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't do that either.
Yeah, incognito. Oh no, Stacy, what was that?
My big sigh.
Yeah.
It's coming up with the same thing. It's like you're using this email to collaborate on files in a visitor session. You need to delete your visitor session before you can use this email. And people share their Google Docs all the time. I can't see where in the world do I, yeah.
Share your screen with me real quick.
Yep.
See what that looks like. Not that I am in any way, shape, or form a Google expert.
Let's see. Hold on just a sec.
Oh, wow. You need to delete your visitor session. Can you hit
Okay.
next? Where do you? Yes, permanently delete your visitor section.
Okay,
I had to do
so for
this.
whatever reason, I wasn't able to hit next last time.
Oh, okay. So maybe it's in the incognito.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is also a good practice too, because like that way, if somebody has used your email address to get into other